you all for joining me today. And yeah, as promised, this is tips for creating family deals for newzealand.com. And I'll talk about briefly what I'm going to cover. I'm going to talk about one, how to create that deal on newzealand.com that leads to customers on your website, and position a family-friendly deal that takes advantage of your product offering and appeals to Kiwi families, and importantly, converts referrals from newzealand.com to seamless bookings. So my expertise is kind of at the beginning and at the end of this. So I've picked up and been in contact with TNZ, and they've given me some stuff. My expertise is in how to find these people and give them an offer and a Kiwi ready product, how to kind of put that together, and also to make sure it actually converts. So one of the big things that happens on newzealand.com is people click on the thing and they get lost and don't end up booking. And when you've got 300,000 people clicking through to deals, you definitely want to make sure you're converting them. So there will be Q&A at the end, so you can ask me about the deal you're thinking of doing, troubleshoot one if it's not working. I'm not going to get super technical on the Tourism New Zealand side, but I do have all the links of where to find information on each point. And I have brought out the highlights of what you need to do in this presentation. Because I did tell them there is a lot of links and a lot of information, and I just wanted the really key parts, right? So sit back. I will be recording this, and I'm going to share it in my Facebook group, and I'll also put up the key slides in that group as well, so that you can access it. So I'll put the details in the chat at the end. And I'll just get something out of the way before we begin. I don't always work for free. After this, I'll ask if you need help. I'll put my details in the chat. If you're interested, we can talk later. We don't have to do that now or on this call. And some of my services are registered for funding. So with that out of the way, let's get started. I'm going to start with a bit of a story to help us put us in this mindset. So this is me and my son Harris. I've got two boys, 4 and 6, and we went on a family holiday down to Abel, Tasman. I've always wanted to go there, so we went down there in January. And so that was like the trip to go out and see Split Apple Rock. I wanted to walk the track. I'd actually done lots of ads for Air New Zealand to send people there, but I'd never got there myself. So I really wanted to go check it out, see the turquoise water, hear the birds, all those things that I told people you could do. So I went on travel tips and I said, how do I get there? People said there's 3 companies. They're all the same. Just choose one. So that's what I went and did. I went and looked at all the websites, as you do. But there was only one that really appealed to me. You know, if you're in that mindset of I've got 2 young boys, particularly a 4-year-old, how much time you spend on the water, how long the day is, the boat is all quite key. And so a lot of the 2 of the other companies still made it sound more like for overseas tourists. It was like sun yourself on the deck. You know, we'll ride around Abel Tasman for 8 hours. And I was like, one, I don't want my kids topside running around, and 2, 8 hours is just way too long on the water. So I found a half-day deal. Actually, it wasn't even a deal. It was only $10 cheaper than the 8-hour one, but it was motor you out for 45 minutes, stop at Split Apple Rock along the way, not do this, sun yourself. That's what I was thinking. I was freaking myself out. I'll skip past that. What I wanted was this, right? I wanted a nice get up to the top, have a little family walk. And I wasn't wrong. So when I arrived at Able Tasman, 3 booths all next to each other, the one for the company I chose, absolutely chocker. You know, it's the second week of January, it's all families, and I couldn't understand why the other guys had no one there until I realized, you know, everyone had gone to the same websites, done the same research, and second week of January, some boat companies were sitting out in the harbour empty, which is absolutely ridiculous. And sure enough, downstairs was packed. Upstairs was like this, right? Just a couple of non-family groups sitting on top. So I got to have my walk, see the sights. I got to finally go see Anchorage Bay and have a swim and discover the water isn't actually photoshopped. It really is that turquoise. But importantly, then we got picked up at like 1:45. So, you know, it's a big day for some boys. We walked about an hour and a half, and time to get an ice cream, you know, back in town, and importantly, time for me to get home in Nelson in the afternoon and try a beer. Not get completely sunburned out on a boat for 8 hours. So this is part of my point when I talk to people, is around whatever deal you come up with, you need to think about who's it for. What do they want? What are they expecting? Why will they choose you? So I kind of summed this up as cruise and explore light, right? It was our one big thing, but not so big that it became unenjoyable. And this was an example of what I call the 3 Ps. So my way of working is I've got a bit of a process, right? And these 3 work well in tandem. So a Kiwi ready product, value propositions, and customer personas. So if we broke down this one, their product was great, right? It was a half-day tour, cruise and explore, drop off, pick up. There were 3 walking options of different length, and they did a free map and advice, which doesn't sound like much, but actually they came over and spent 10 minutes with every single person on that boat ride and talked them through it. And left me feeling like really confident about what I'd chosen and I was going to do. They use some obvious value propositions. Oh, sorry, can I just get people to go on mute there? I'll mute you all. And everyone had a large boat with indoor space, but they were the only company that told me. I'm sure the other boats had toilets and coffee and snacks, but they were the only people that told me. They did talk up. They were friendly locals. So the customer persona that I was fitting into there, you know, we were active explorers, families for young kids, probably within an hour's drive, and wanted a taste of Able Tasman National Park. So when I look at something like that, those first 3 are super important, but there's actually 5. So 5 Ps to profitable bookings is how I look at it. So you've got those 3, and then when you get to your digital presence, that's all those things have to be communicated, just as that company's was. I felt reassured, ready to book. They'd already captured my attention, and they got me all the way through to action, right, to book it. And then the last step is precision marketing, because it's no longer digital marketing. If you understand an offer and a product and people, you can be quite precise with how you target that niche. So I often talk to people, a lot of people come to me for digital marketing, and what I say is, you need to come back and do all this first. So why is this important? Because we've all felt this before, right? Like, blah, blah, blah. This is not for me. This is something else. And I'm sure you've had it in your own Facebook feeds, right? And ads dropped in and you're like, that is completely irrelevant to me. So your family package or deal needs to resonate with your ideal customer, not everyone else's ideal customer. Or don't say, I want to attract everyone in New Zealand, because you don't. You want people that want what you offer and will enjoy it. Because the other thing that happens, if you get the wrong people and it doesn't match up, you'll get bad reviews, right? So speaking to a motel yesterday, they don't want under fives because they're on a busy road and cars drive in and out. And so people with young kids complain about it. So I said, well, stop doing, deals for young kids. You need to look at getting the older families through the door. Because this is what you want people to do when they get to the newzealand.com. This sounds like a bit of us. It's a great price. Look what's included. The kids will love it. I can book it online now. It's the nodding heads. Yep. So what do we already know is resonating with Kiwi families? I'll go over a bit of the highlights from Tourism New Zealand that I've kind of pulled out. And this was very recent, end of January. Some of you might have seen it, the webinar. So the need to explore remains. And I definitely think that's true, right? Kiwis are still out there, nowhere near the volumes of overseas, but they still want to go and explore. There's definitely some reconnecting with the familiar. I'm not going to lie, my first trip was down to Rotorua because I hadn't been there in 20 years and I wanted to show the kids. But then I started looking for the sort of new and hidden. I went and checked out, some glowworm caves that I'd never seen before in that area. And of course, went to Nelson, on my bucket list. So there's people in different stages that are still reconnecting with somewhere close by and others that are coming to explore. And when you think about international visitor, and I'm sure you've had it yourself, every day is a new adventure. Every landscape is different. But if I'm coming back to Rotorua, I kind of know it a little bit. I've got some expectations. So serving Kiwis in some ways can be harder because they're not on cloud 9 away from their lives. Their lives are probably a 2-hour drive away. So history, culture, hidden gems, community, and personal. And I'll go into some of those with examples soon. And this one, I'm sure we've all heard, for them, it would be £50. For us, it would be 100. And I agree and kind of disagree. I think there are some trips that can be the trip you've gone there to do, like an example of going to Nelson or Queenstown. Some people aren't going to go all that way to not do the one thing they want to do. They just may not do 5 of them like an overseas visitor will. So I still think there's a place for a price point that people will pay for, particularly because previously Kiwis spent 1/3 of their travel income just on flights alone. So we're all taking cheaper flights or driving. There is a bit more on the holiday budget. These were some of the top ones that they pulled out. Refresh, thrill, play, and knowledge. And some no-brainers in there, like cycling, family rides, rail trails, lockdown, partnering with people like that or making it clear that you're easy to access a trail, store bikes, things like that. It's just helpful. Short walks, again, those sort of Kiwis like to explore, reconnect with nature. And even I'd agree with the sort of winery hopping. I went to a winery because, we're in Nelson, and 8 out of 10 families there, 8 out of 10 groups were families. But do you think the winery sold anything but wine? You literally couldn't buy water. You couldn't buy juice. They didn't have ice blocks. You could buy a cheese platter and wine. That was it. And yeah, there was some pretty grumpy kids around there as their parents sipped wine and ate cheese. It's things like that, thinking about who am I catering to. These are two I definitely agree with. I think Māori culture has been definitely undervalued and undersold. I've seen some great examples of people that are doing well, telling authentic stories. And also, you know, tourism's getting a lot of heat, as you'd all know, around conservation. So whether leading with it or at least being secondary, that you understand conservation and nature is quite powerful. So the trick is to take these customer persona insights, the things we know and we're hearing from Tourism New Zealand, the things you're seeing, create a Kiwi ready product. So your product, you might already have one, but you may need to just tell people, remind them why it's good for Kiwis, right? And create your value proposition. And like the boat example, they actually had a value proposition that was, you know, similar in many ways, but they told me about it. And then they created a package that fitted that. So those are the 3 Ps again. You'll hear me talk about them. So here's some I prepared earlier, some examples that I've seen that are working. Some people I've worked with, some people I haven't. So stay and play. This is people up in the Hokianga, and they needed an extra reason for people to come stay. So they kind of freaked out a little bit because they went and spent a lot of money on toys, but luckily it worked. People loved the idea of stay and play. You know, getting to reconnect with nature, but also a bit of fun, bit of adventure. So, you know, they had made that Kiwi ready product. They've made their own value proposition, and they're getting people to an area that traditionally hasn't seen many tourists. Active explorers, that's just a no-brainer. There's lots of places for us to go and explore, but just try and make it easier. So even things like I worked with a place near the rail trail, and once I got talking to them, she was like, oh yeah, you can actually ride from our accommodation safely and join the rail trail. I was like, that's really nice. You should probably say that on your website. And she's like, oh, and people really love that we're gated, so they can leave their bikes and everything on a car. And I was like, again, say that. That means they're not worrying about bringing 4 flash bikes down and wondering where they're going to keep them. You know, say you've got a gated and it's locked at night. Great. You know, it's all those things that you might take for granted and not really think about. Make that part of your story. Niche interests. So it might be worth looking around at who's doing something interesting near you. So these guys were on the Support New Zealand Tourism site a few weeks ago and said they were going gangbusters, doing really well. And they caught a bit of heat because it happened the day of the lockdown 3.0. But they confirmed they've doubled their bookings from the domestic market. They've gone from 40% to 80%. Families coming to do horse riding. So there's definitely niche interests out there like horse riding that are doing well that you could partner with. You know, what is there a discount, or you know, will you sort it out? Any of those types of things to take the hassle out. And tell Māori experience. So again, super important, but also important to be authentic. This is Waka Abel Tasman, some people I worked with last year, and they were almost 100% overseas. So they were freaking out because they were getting cruise shippers, they were getting people coming for this experience, right? They've flipped 100% into domestic and they're busier than ever. And for the first time, you know, they're actually going to close down a bit over January and take a break because they've been flat out. So, you know, they begin their trip, you know, with a blessing, karakia. People learn about tikanga, etiquette. They become familiar with the stories. They get to hear things probably that their children have told them, right? If you think about Matariki, my kids come home and tell me more about Matariki than I know. So a lot of people are wanting to go out and do these experiences with their kids. So I think finding an angle or someone you can work with, I think is a good thing to do. Conservation story. So a jet boat company I worked with last year, K-Jet. This is Johan, deep in the Fiordland forest. And they had a very confusing sort of offer. I hope they don't mind me saying that, but they did about eight different jet boating trips, right? So when you got there, you were overwhelmed with the amount of trips. And after we had picked apart their business, we discovered they had an unfair advantage. They're the only jet boating company with a concession from dock to run a jet boat through Fiordland. And not only that, they stop, people can get out, explore the nature. You can sponsor a stoat trap. So they're at the same time clearing traps. They also do bird counting for dock. And I was like, that's amazing. Why don't you lead with that? Why isn't that the number one trip you do? And you've got to talk up that story. You need pictures of you, holding those traps, doing those things. So if you pop to their website, that's exactly what they've gone and done. They've flipped it and made this their lead story, their advantage, their value proposition. So I'm hoping, has that sparked any ideas for your business? Because once you have an idea sorted, you've probably still got some questions for TNZ like, now what should I do? So they want you to create family prices and or a family product. And they'll feature those on newzealand.com and including any partner or operators that you build with. They've suggested 2 nights and 2 activities. I've got other thoughts on that I'll go into again soon. And I'll also give you all the links in the chat and send you an email. They've given me about 4 different links that I can supply to you. What are the criteria? So here are a few examples of what a good family deal could look like. Again, the sources from TNZ, the 2 adults, 2 kids, the % off, kids go free, eat free, stay free, % of rooms, a family room price. I was booking for another trip and I was quite pleased to see backpackers that have turned dorm rooms into family rooms. They've literally slid a queen bed in there and now your kids have 6 beds to choose from. I thought that was genius. Well, to take advantage of that. And % off kids tickets, so there's some no-brainer ones in there. And again, I'll give you some more thoughts as we go. So what performs the best currently on newzealand.com? So this is in order. So % off a particular price point, which I quite like. So by price point, I mean, it's an all-in-one. And I'm speaking from my dad mentality here of like, I want to know what my all-in price is. Like I've got a amount in mind that I want to spend on a holiday. So I want to know that I'm not going to get, nickel and dimed on lots of different things. So actually 30% off, well, is that, I still don't know what the price is. What's the all-in price? So sometimes I quite like the save amount. So you might say it's this, it was this. Anything that's free, obviously that's a word that resonates. It is the most picked up word on Facebook. If people are scanning Facebook, people stop at free. It's a fact. More for less. And what I often try to get people to do more of is that last one, which is more for less. Like, how do you articulate your value better instead of just discounting, because we don't all want to get into price wars and winter rates in summer. How can you really look at those 3 Ps and your value and say, well, this is what you get. You know, how do you big up that value instead of just cutting prices and going on grab one? So this is an example of what they'll look like. It hasn't gone live yet, but they do have, if you go and have a look, there's examples already of accommodation deals, activity deals, etc. So for instance, there's an all-in price, you know, $800, but they've gone and said all the things that it is. You know, it's 2 nights accommodation for a family of 4 or 5. It's meals, it's goodie bags, and more. And it's in Glenorchy, so it sounds, you know, okay, well, that could be quite interesting if that's my all-in price. And actually, I did go have a look at that one. You know, there is a lot of free stuff there, you know, because they're on a farm, they're in nature. So you could definitely spend your time 100% at that property. And part of that, which they should have made clear, was $50 to use at the general store. So really, it's $750. So that could be your all-in cost. And this is another one, Kahu Kayaks. I'm going to pick on these guys a little bit soon because this one didn't really resonate with me, so I went and clicked on it to see what would happen. Because 15% off, I don't know what that means. In fact, I find 15% off a bit of a weird number. That's like maths. That's just a bit too hard, right? You're like, so if it was $450, what would 15% be? I don't know. If I was going to go for a family, deals for the family, I'd probably want to see some families in these pictures. I'm not seeing any families, right? It's kind of like put yourself in the picture sort of stuff. A family canyon swing, I'm not too sure about that. So that was a bit of TNZ and what's happening on there, right? My tips for creating a family deal, and this comes from a lot of years in digital marketing, a lot of time doing stuff with Air New Zealand and Grab a Seat. The sort of sweet spot for Grab a Seat was around 2 to 4 nights for domestic market. It's 3 to 5 days. And Kiwis are kind of about one awesome experience. You know, what's that lead thing? When people say, what did you do on holiday? You usually tell them one thing, right? We went to Abel Tasman and we walked the track and we swam at the beach. I don't talk about the other 4 things we did. That was the one awesome experience, my hook, my travel story that I want to share. And I think, like Camp Glenorchy, when you are thinking about your package and building on top of that awesome experience, what are some suggestions of other activities, particularly ones that don't cost you money? So, you know, we're walking distance to a beach, we're next door to the motor park, where whatever. What are the things that don't cost you money that you already have that are good, you know, perceived value? Again, I'll give you another example. There was worked with a company in Kaikoura, and they had really interesting accommodation. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of good, but it's, you know, seems a bit too far away from anything. And he was like, oh, well, we do have 40 animals on site. We've got a mini farm. And I was like, oh my God, 40 animals. He's like, oh yeah, the kids love it. And we feed them twice a day, and your kids can come around and feed them and be part of the experience. Some people come to the property and never actually leave. And I was like, again, amazing story that you need to tell. You don't have any pictures of this. You don't have kids feeding animals. You know, those are some confidence building activities and getting in touch with nature that people from the city would love to do with their kids. You've got to include that in your story. It doesn't cost you any money. In fact, you're already paying for those 40 animals. So the pricing. So this is my example on maths. Save 30%, now only $134 per night for 3 nights. And you're like, what was that exactly? Another way to write that same thing is to stay 3, pay 2, only $400. Much easier to take in, I'm getting more for less. Would you agree? Yeah, yeah. So that's in terms of all the things to create your deal. And then here's my tips for converting. Once people have gone from newzealand.com, you want to create a seamless booking, right? You've grabbed their attention. They've clicked. So you want the sort of shortest possible route to getting to here, to action. But also, if you come from an ad like that, you're going to need more information, right? I need to know what the actual price is, what I'm getting, the dates, duration, all those things. And that's what I call the sort of the extra information that you've got to give them, and you've got to build desire for them to take that final click to pay for it. So super freaking important part. So let's put ourselves in the position of this person, this active explorer family. So they're, scrolling through Facebook. They see the deal. It's for the school holidays. We do need to get onto that because Kiwis, as you know, are leaving it till like 2 or 3 weeks out to book. And they're like, yeah, geez, do I have to book something? And what do you know? There's a package that catches their attention. So they're pretty happy about that. They click for more information. Oh dear. So this is my oh dear. So this is a recording I made. And I'll start from the beginning here. So you drop straight onto their website. Look at all those words. That's one deal. Oh, that's not the family deal. It's only got adults. Can I change it? Whoa, no, only adults. I'm looking for a 15% off deal for my family. Oh, there's another deal. Oh, here's one. $350. Or was it $410? I don't know. It's got 2 prices. Here's another one. I'm now up to my 5th deal here on the same page. 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm lost. Did you spot the deal? No. So it's probably likely you're going to have to go back and say, what was that deal again? Which I did do. I had to go look to find out which one it was. And it was the half-day cruiser. So I'll come back down to that. And I need one. And I'll go to school holidays, because then maybe the price will change when I get to school holidays. I've accidentally selected 2 adults and 2 children while trying to figure this out on another deal. Oh, I don't want lunch. That's more expense. Whoops, I've clicked on too many things trying to find this deal in the first place. Now I can't see where it's discounted. Is it discounted? It's got a promo. So again, I went back to newzealand.com, but there's no promo code there. So what do you think people do now, right? They're like, I'm done here. Just going to abandon it. Maybe I'll send them a chat up, or maybe someone's given me a message, or my TV program's come back on and I'm finished. You've lost me. So don't do this. right? You need to think about what that person wants, what you've been able to tell them in this small amount of space, what else you need to give them the information they need to build the desire. Desire is often helpful to have a picture of people enjoying it, some social proof of people like me that said, oh, we did this, hopefully within the last few months, not in 2016, and we really enjoyed it. And like, oh, that person sounds like me and what I want. It's a bit of desire, a bit of social proof to tip you over the line. So when you go to build yours, ask yourself, how do I, and this is a bit of a joke because it's all the things we say and hear, but how do you make it seamless? And I think importantly, put yourself in your customer's shoes. Don't make it hard for them. They're trying to spend some money and book with you. So think about the customer journey. So Tourism New Zealand have some guidance on this, which I'll supply a link to, but these are my 3 ways of looking at it. So you just really need people to understand what they click on and what they get to, that's super clear that they're getting the thing they think they're going to buy. So highly recommended is create a dedicated landing page with that one deal on it, with more information that tips them over. Because you're constrained by a word count and one picture on Tourism New Zealand. They've come to they're in your shop now, they're in your front window. What can you do? They've already come for that one thing. If you can't load up too many deals, you might put one other deal in there. So if you do a 2-nighter with a nice price point, but then you do a bit more sell, they might say, and if you want, there's also a 4-nighter, and it has an additional X. So you might try and do an upsell, a bump, but definitely don't send people on completely different journeys. So at the very least, you want to create a tile on your homepage, put it at the top of your promo page. So if, Kahu Kayaks had put the family one right up the top and put school holiday special from Tourism New Zealand, I'd know I'd come to the right place. Just like when you came here, it was the same picture, it was the same title that you'd clicked from. You're like, I'm in the right place. That's what you want. Another thing they recommend is to link straight to the booking page with the promo code loaded. Some people will have the ability to do that, others won't. But I actually think a lot of people will want more information. It's quite difficult to take people from that little tile all the way through to now pay for it. So I definitely look at using the top 2. So in summary, steal my framework. Nail your 3 Ps, please. We'll all have better holidays, better experiences. You'll get better customers that you enjoy serving. They'll leave better reviews. It's just how it works. They'll tell more people like them to come see you. So create your Kiwi-ready product, define your value propositions, attract and convert your ideal customer personas, not everyone else's. So when you're ready, here are 2 ways I can help. Join my free group where I'll post this recording and some of the key slides, all the links from TNZ. If you'd like to work directly with me, of course you can. You can email me, send me a chat message, whatever you like. We don't have to talk about that now. We can do that later. So that brings me to Q&A. Oh yes, and lastly, there is another piece of content I created that is in that group, which is things you should be doing for your website to increase your direct bookings, particularly if you're up against things like booking.com and Grab One.